Hey, this is Gary with Black Diamond Games. Someone was asking me on my Facebook page about leasing, if I could talk about leases. So let me talk a little bit about how you get one and what's a good one and the whole how you go about that. So you ideally want a multi-year lease. It might sound a little scary compared to a monthly lease, but monthly leases are unstable. A landlord can basically kick you out for whatever reason they have, and moving is very expensive. Our current location, it would be $50,000 to move. We've looked into that, and a lot of stores never survive a move. So what you really want is that stability of multiple years in the same place. You put a big investment into moving. You put up a sign. You make business cards. You have build outs. All these things are expensive. You don't want to move prematurely. So you want a multi-year lease. Now, if you're in an area that's primarily a month-to-month lease situation, that's a warning sign to me. That's a red flag that this is kind of a devalued area. You may want to move your store, start your store somewhere else, someplace with multi-year leases. Most metro areas are going to have multi-year leases. Month to month is a sign of distress in my mind, and it invites unhealthy competition. It invites people who are undercapitalized, who create pop-up stores to compete with you. Uh, and some locations have 6, 12 stores that they cycle through. They pop up. They're deep discounters. They don't know what they're doing. They're undercapitalized. They fail. Another one comes into place. So I don't think you want anything to do with a month-to-month lease if you can help it. Here's the thing: when you're starting out, nobody really wants to give you a multi-year lease because it's going to be in a better location. There's more money on the table. If you fail, you have problems. It's going to be a big hassle. So, how do you get a multi-year lease? Well, you're going to have to present yourself in a favorable way, and that's usually with a business plan that has a very strong financial analysis that shows the landlord that you understand the role, the expenses that are involved in this business, and that you project the income that will cover those expenses. And even then, if you don't have experience, which they're going to be looking for in your business plan, they're going to be very reluctant to give you a lease. Money is actually very helpful there. If you've got a big cash reserve, that solves a lot of problems. I interviewed in my first location, and I did my business plan presentation, and the landlord and the broker were both there, and they're like, that's very good, but I don't see that you have any money, so I don't think this is going to work. I said, well, I have this new account that I set up this week that you didn't ask about that has $100,000 in it for the business. And they're, oh, well, we have a deal. So I was there for a few years. Now that lease was worth $50,000 if you take the monthly rent and you multiply it by the months you're going to be there. The $50,000 lease. So there was some money on the line there, and it was important that I was qualified. Now 3 years later, when I moved, that property broker came in and confided in me that they didn't think I would last the 3 years when I signed up. So they were kind of iffy, but they're like, what the heck? Maybe he'll have enough money to figure it out, which I did. So that was the first lease, and getting that annual multi-year lease was important to me because anything that was going to be a monthly lease was going to be in a bad location. Now let's talk about location, which is really where we should have started this. But location is critical. If you're going to have a gamer den with some Costco tables and some boxes of cards, it doesn't really matter so much where you are. But if you want a store that appeals to the general public, you need to be in a higher traffic location. And there's a tension between your advertising budget and your rent budget. And there's this kind of thinking that if you don't have a high traffic location, you're going to have to spend more on advertising to kind of buy your way into higher traffic. This is true when comparing kind of apples to apples locations, maybe one that's not quite as high traffic as the other. But a bad location If you put your store in like a light industrial location rather than a retail location, like out in the middle of nowhere next to car dealerships or body shops, you cannot buy your way with advertising into having traffic. You will not. That will not generally succeed the way you want it. You just can't do it. Can't buy it. And that's a major consideration if you're trying to get that high traffic. Now, so you need a good location to start. And after your first lease, I mean, you may decide to stay, but if you decide to move, it's a lot easier getting a second location or a second store or a bigger store. My second store was that lease was I value that one at $500,000. So that's a lease that was 10 times more valuable than my first lease, and it took me very little effort to get it. I mean, there was talk and negotiations and stuff, but it was not an issue of will you make it. It's an issue of do we both want to work with each other, and I had a broker for that one, so the broker represented me, and they essentially people were courting me for the second round of leasing the new location. They wanted me. They saw someone who rode out that recession and who was looking to expand, and they saw dollar signs. That was good. They wanted that. Much easier. So and then since then I think I've negotiated about 5 different leases, and 4 of them were on the same property. So that second location, when the recession hit, I learned from small business everything's negotiable, and we went in and renegotiated that lease down. And then when we wanted to expand, it took us a couple years to get them to do it, but we got the property management company to agree to backstop the expansion and use their property management company builders to actually build out our expansion. And that turned out really well for us because they promised 6 weeks and it turned into 6 months, and they covered all the costs of that. They got hammered, and they gave me 4 or 5 months of free rent because they were so late. That wouldn't have happened with any other builder. And then I just renegotiated again with them. So and it was they wanted it. So that was kind of funny. So I think bottom line is get your financials in order. Figure out the location you need that has high enough traffic. Find a multi-year lease. Don't do a month-to-month lease. Make sure you have money in the bank. And that last one especially solves a lot of problems. All right, thanks.